This show is sponsored by Audible. Fans of It Matters can get a 30-day free trial of Audible Premium Plus. Stay tuned for details. Hello, and welcome to It Matters How We Treat One Another, the social science show. I'm your host, Matthew David Vasco. If you subscribe to this show on YouTube or your favorite podcasting platform, then thank you. We are grateful for each and every one of our subscribers. We are also thankful for our patrons on Patreon. Your support helps to make this episode possible. My guest this episode is a fascinating individual by the name of Joie Seldon. Joie is an emotional evolution trainer, author, speaker, and life coach. She is the author of one of those wonderful types of books that we all need to read at some point in our lives, called Emotions: An Owner's Manual. Haven't you sometimes felt like you could use a book like that? If so, then you're going to love this interview. But first, our inspiring news. If inspiring things are happening in your neck of the woods, then please send us a direct message on one of our social media accounts and let us know. You can find us by our show name on Facebook, Instagram, X, and Blue Sky. This week's inspiring news comes from multiple news sources, with most of the thanks going to positive.news. As we close out 2025, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by the challenges facing our world. But today, I want to share some remarkable stories that remind us why hope matters and why the way we treat one another and our planet continues to make a real difference. First, a medical miracle is giving families their lives back. Scientists at University College London and Great Ormond Street Hospital achieved something that would have seemed like science fiction just a few years ago. Using base editing technology, a precision tool that can change single letters of DNA, they created a gene therapy that's reversing a previously untreatable blood cancer called T-cell leukemia. 82% of patients achieved very deep remissions, with 64% remaining disease-free. The first patient, a girl named Elisa, who received the treatment when she was 13, is now 16 and living a full life, going sailing, earning her Duke of Edinburgh Award, doing all the things she thought she'd never get to do. Second, our planet is healing in measurable ways. According to the Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Service, the ozone hole over Antarctica closed on November 30th this year, the earliest since 2019. This is a direct result of the Montreal Treaty from decades ago, proving that when nations work together, we can reverse environmental damage. The ozone layer is healing. Perhaps that's a sign that we can overcome climate change as well. Third, survival rates for chronic diseases are improving globally. A landmark study led by Imperial College London found that deaths from chronic diseases fell in 4 out of 5 nations between 2010 and 2019, with progress in tackling cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, and strokes leading the way. Researchers called this a global success story, lives saved through better prevention, treatment, and care. Fourth, endangered species are making remarkable comebacks. The green sea turtle, which had been endangered since the 1980s, has now moved to least concern on the IUCN Red List. Meanwhile, a bird once thought extinct in the wild the Guam kingfisher, was reintroduced to Palmyra Atoll last year, and 3 pairs have now laid eggs, marking the beginning of a new chapter for a species that was down to just 29 birds. And finally, technology is connecting us in more inclusive ways. After a successful campaign, Microsoft updated its spell check to stop flagging thousands of names from Africa, Asia, Welsh, and Irish origins as errors. A small but meaningful change that tells people you belong, your identity is valid, and your name matters. These stories share a common thread. They're the result of people choosing to care. Scientists dedicating years to finding cures, nations collaborating across borders, conservationists refusing to give up on species, and advocates fighting for dignity in everyday technologies. As we head into the new year, these developments remind us that progress is possible, that compassion creates meaningful change, and that it truly does matter how we treat one another and the world we all share. Again, if you know of inspiring things happening in your area, then please DM us on our socials and let us know. Thanks. Up next is our feature segment. But first, this show is sponsored by Audible. You probably already know that Audible is an outstanding source for audiobooks. But did you know that Audible is also an amazing resource for guided wellness? It's true. And fans of our show can get a free month of Audible Premium Plus just by clicking the link in our episode description or by visiting the podcast page at MatthewVasco.com. Again, that's a free month of Audible Premium Plus by clicking the link in our episode description or by visiting MatthewVasco.com and clicking Podcast. And now, our feature segment. My guest this episode is Joie Seldon. Joie is the founder of Emotional Evolution Institute and the author of Emotions, an Owner's Manual. She is an international life and professional success coach and EQ trainer. She brings 25 years of experience as an actor and acting teacher, 10 years as a somatic psychology therapist, and a lifetime of personal growth engagement to her innovative approach to teaching people how to release limiting behaviors and use their emotions as the powerful guidance system they are meant to be. She has worked with clients at companies like NASA, AT&T, Wells Fargo, Blue Shield, Dolby, and in a variety of professions. Welcome, Joie.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to say welcome to you because you're welcoming into my world as well. I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to this. I loved your book. Do you have a copy of it with you by any chance? Just to
I just
show
happen to
our
have a copy.
our YouTube
Yeah,
audience
this is
here.
it.
Wonderful. Emotions and Owner's Manual. I feel like that is probably a book each of us has needed at some point in our lives, right?
Yes. Yes, I agree with that, including
uh,
myself.
I got a lot out of it, and I'm gonna enjoy delving into it with you today. And I just thought I would start out by bringing up something from your introduction. In your introduction, I mentioned that you're an EQ trainer. What
Yes.
is EQ for the sake of our audience, and what does an EQ trainer do?
All right. Well, EQ stands for emotional intelligence. Like we have IQ is our mental capacity, EQ is our emotional wherewithal or ability to handle our emotions. And the difference between IQ and EQ is that EQ is totally learnable. There's no limit to it. Everybody has the same potential. I mean, with IQ, we have different talents and different areas that we tend to be better at than other people, and the others are better than us. But with emotions, we all are emotional beings. And so when I do training, what I do is teach people how to access their innate emotional intelligence. And part of that is looking at all of the learning that we've been given in society and cultures, et cetera, that limits what's possible for us. So if I'm working with a group, it gets everybody on the same page, so that they all have the same understanding of what emotions are and how they function, so that they can then take the tools and techniques that I have around communication and self-expression and all of that, and have that work much better, because then everybody understands where everybody's coming from. So that's the essence of what I do. When I work with a group, I also work with individuals.
Oh, excellent, excellent. So it's not only about understanding your emotions, it's also about maybe giving everyone a shared language
Yes,
around their. I see. Excellent,
yes,
excellent. So that in group work, maybe a team could work a little better as a team
yes,
because,
absolutely.
okay.
Yeah, and that's part of the thing. We all come with our history, the whatever the family we grew up in, our culture, our religion, and all of those things that shapes how we deal with our emotions. So everybody's gotten a subjective experience of it. And when you can lay out something that everybody understands, then it creates a more common ground and a much greater ease in communicating and expressing and handling, regulating your emotions.
So people could even bring you in as a team building exercise then.
Absolutely. And I have
Fantastic.
a background in improvisation, so I make it fun.
Oh, that's excellent. Yes, I'm sure that would be way more interesting than just listening to someone talk, actually being able
Right.
to
Yeah.
sort of get up and move and do some exercises,
Yeah.
putting these skills to work.
It
Excellent.
takes the preciousness of people a little afraid to feel. There's a lot of underlying fear around feeling our feelings. And so
Mm.
it kind of takes your mind off of that. And then before you know it, you're feeling things and expressing things that you didn't know you were capable of. That's what I've witnessed anyway. And it's like, hey, this feels good. It's actually
Yeah.
very liberating.
So it's almost like unlocking our emotional potential in a way.
Yes, that's a
Oh,
great
wow.
way to put it. I
Okay.
like that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. In your book, you say, which I loved, by the way, you say that all emotions are biological. I had to really sit with that for a minute
Uh-huh.
when I read that. Can you
Yeah.
kind of unpack that statement for our audience? What does that mean, and what does that say about our emotions?
Yes, yes. This is really crucial, this part of that, because I know I grew up thinking emotions are just, I don't know, there's this thing that you feel. And
Mm,
it took me a long time as I was doing my own personal growth process to realize that they're very physical. And when you're feeling sad, you don't go around going, "Hey, I'm sad." No, you have a very visceral experience of sadness or anger or any of these core emotions. They're very visceral. And then as I got into studying emotions, and ultimately when I went into grad school in somatic counseling psychology, which soma is the whole body, and it's a way of approaching our psychology, recognizing that we're embodied beings.
right.
That's when I really got into depth about understanding our neural pathways, our brain functioning, our autonomic nervous system. And what happens is when emotions are essentially giving us information about our relationship to what we're experiencing. How do we know this? We feel them in
Mm,
our body,
mm,
and we feel differently when we feel different emotions. And so part of my book is actually mapping out the tangible aspect of what happens when we feel a specific emotion. It activates something in your brain, the amygdala, which is part of the brain that is connected with emotions, the autonomic nervous system, which is the thing that regulates your heartbeat, your digestion, your breathing, all these things we do automatically, is regulated by the autonomic nervous system. And that has the vagus nerve, which is connected to the entire body. So all your organs and your major muscle groups are related to each other through this autonomic nervous system. And what happens is it gets activated when you're feeling emotions, and it sends messages to different parts of the body so that you'll have a different response. You've heard of fight or flight. That's our fear, that's our survival mechanism. And so in fight or flight, something is activated in a way that you're going to either fight to save your life or you're going to flee. You're going to get out of there to try to save your life. It's a way to keep from being harmed, either physically harmed or killed, right? It's a very primal instinct. But we have a more modern, sophisticated interaction with other people system that does activate similar emotions, but on a different level. And so it speaks to us through our body and through felt sensations. Our heart starts pounding, your stomach gets churny, your shoulders get tight, or if you're angry, your jaw gets tight. All of these physical manifestations are your emotions communicating with you.
I have this. I mean, hopefully the listeners or viewers can empathize with this. I have this reaction sometimes where it seems like my body gets ahead of my brain, right? Where
Uh-huh.
I'm feeling something in my body and my brain is going, "What does that mean? Like,
Oh, that's
what
very
emotion is
interesting.
that I'm
Yeah.
feeling right now?" And then I'll go, "Oh my gosh, I'm anxious," or
Hmm.
I think I'm a little sad today. What's going on
Beautiful.
with me? I'm asking myself, what's going
Exactly.
on
Well,
with
that's
me?
it. That's right. That's emotional intelligence at work right there. And that's why a lot of the work that I do is help people get connected to their own body. We're really trained to be like from the neck up. We're very, especially in the West here, we're very heady people, right? We're all in the thinking all the time. And so part of what stops people from being engaged with their emotions is they're uncomfortable sometimes.
Mhm.
There's quite a few of them that are uncomfortable. And especially if you have a belief that this is a negative emotion, I'm feeling that. I don't want to feel that. And we're also taught by advertising, oh, if you feel bad in any way, buy this product, use this product, and you'll feel better, as if feeling uncomfortable is there's something, innately wrong with you or there's something bad happening. And that's not the case.
That brings me to my next question, which is that it's often said that we need to learn to control our emotions,
Mm,
or else our emotions will end up controlling us.
yeah.
What do you think of that statement?
I think that's one of the most detrimental beliefs that we have as a society
Okay.
because you cannot, first of all, you can't control an emotion. Emotions will come. They come faster than, you can evoke an emotion with your thinking,
Hmm.
but the emotion will come because it's there to serve you. It's your servant, it's your guidance system, and it will come
Oh.
without any doing on your part consciously. And then when you try to suppress or deny or control that emotion, instead of listening to its message, instead of getting what it's trying to communicate, it's going to stick around until you hear it. And if you're not going to hear it in the present state, it will affect your body because what? Emotions are biological. They're in your body. And that's when we get bad, neck pain and back pain and illnesses, or we get sick.
Mhm.
That's actually unexpressed emotion in your body. I'm not going to claim that that's 100% of the time, but a lot of the illnesses that we experience comes from repressed emotion.
That's interesting that you say that, because I've always thought, I remember I was probably a preteen, like 10, 11, 12 years old. And I remember being at the local carryout, and there was a woman there buying Tums and complaining about how her ulcer was acting up. And I just remember looking at her and thinking she looks so like anxious and agitated,
Yeah.
you know, and thinking there's got to be some correlation there, right? Like
Uh-huh.
between this emotional state she's in and these ulcers, like she's having a physical manifestation of her inner anxiety or something. Like at that age, I put that together. And I still feel like some of these maladies we have, right? Some of these chronic conditions that people develop
Mhm.
grow from a chronic emotional state.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For myself, when I was in elementary school, I had to get out of class in the middle of the afternoon to go to the cafeteria and drink a little carton of milk, those little horrible cartons of milk, because I had a pre-ulcer stomach,
Oh,
because I was so repressed emotionally in my family.
oh wow.
And I'm a highly sensitive person. I mean, and that's actually a biological thing. We won't get into HSPs, but I am a highly sensitive person. Of course, I would be doing this work, and I was very unhappy, and I had a lot of things that I saw and felt, but I contained them within myself. And later in life, as an adult, I discovered that I had a tumor I thought was a fatty tumor in my leg, and it was melanoma. It was malignant melanoma. So it was removed. They wanted to do all kinds of other treatments. And what I did is I went on retreat and I said, invited what emotion, what unexpressed emotion has to do with this tumor.
Mhm.
And it was anger.
Oh wow.
And it was anger at my father, who was a very nice guy. All my energy had been directed at my mother. That's part of my history, and I, I understand it all now. And so I spent a retreat releasing and expressing this anger that I didn't know I had, and that was 25, more than 25 years ago, and I'm perfectly fine.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a powerful story. Yeah, I mean, we don't want to suggest that every physical thing is a manifestation of some
Right.
emotional thing. We certainly don't want to say that, right?
Right. Because there's
Um, but
environmental stuff.
I mean, it's hard to deny. I mean, in the case of the woman with the ulcers, you know, the stomach ulcers. I mean, she it's just like her whole body was manifesting this emotion of like agitation and anxiety, you know, and I just could not help but put those two things together that day, you know, which is something that got me excited about psychology, and then I went to school for psychology, you know, because I
I
just
was gonna,
find
I was
that
gonna say,
connection
I
so
think that
interesting, right?
that was the sign that you were meant to do what you're doing.
Right, right. I guess I might be a highly sensitive person too. I've always been told I'm oversensitive, whatever that means, but you know.
Well, that's one of the things that society tells us. Don't be so sensitive. You're too emotional. I mean, women get that a lot, especially, but obviously, and there is a difference sometimes between men and women in terms of how we process emotions. Women tend to be and men tend to be more internal in their processing, but we're all emotional beings.
There you go. There you go. I think we need to probably put that on a billboard somewhere. We're all emotional beings, right? I think there's some people who would like to deny that fact, but it is a fact that we all must recognize within ourselves that we are all emotional beings, and I think that that's a part of sort of what the normalization of going to therapy. You know, I think about this phenomenon, how therapy has become so normalized in the last 20 years. And I think that that is part of that unpacking that puzzle, right? Like, yes, we are all emotional beings. And sometimes we need to talk to someone about what we're going through and what
Yes,
we're
I'm
coping
very
with.
glad. I,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm very glad it has become more normalized. It certainly has been tremendously helpful for me throughout my life. I've been quite a few, not a lot, but a few times in crucial moments of my life, I've been in therapy, and it's been incredibly helpful.
And that's, in terms of trying to destigmatize getting help for depression, I say on the show a lot of times, I think I just said it last episode, the only sort of stigma should be in not getting the help we need, right? The only shame we should feel is the shame of it was such a shame they didn't get the help they need, right? Like that, that's where people should feel like, those feelings of depression and what they're going through should be a wake up call. I need to reach out to someone. I need to talk this
Absolutely.
out because talking about our feelings helps us manage them, I think. Don't you agree with that?
I totally agree. We had, and that's one of the benefits of therapy is a safe place for you to express yourself because we don't feel safe. People don't feel safe, and part of it is all this judgment on emotions,
Right.
and so when you do need to get it out, and that's part of I have a wonderful exercise that I teach. It's a people to do so that they have a way of getting their feelings out. And sometimes when we don't even know exactly what it is, because they can, they get nuanced, they get very complex. I essentially break things down into 7 primary emotions, and there are 4 in the book. When I wrote the book, there are 4 that are the cornerstone emotions out of which all other feelings come. And when you understand those 4, then you can get more into the nuanced and subtleties and complexities, things like depression. So I make a distinction between primary emotions like sadness, fear, anger, and joy. Those are the 4. And then there are feelings like depression, and sometimes depression is clinical, but sometimes depression is repressed other emotions. And often that is a repressed anger. It takes a lot of energy to repress your anger, and that energy starts to feel heavy and it becomes a sense of depression. So these are some of the more complex ways of that it gets into, but it's a lot easier to understand that when you understand the fundamentals of the 4 primary emotions.
Yeah. I definitely want to get to sadness because I was really blown away by some things you said in the book about sadness.
Mhm.
But first, I wanted to ask, how can people use your guidance? Right, like we've delved into your book now, and we're going on this journey. How can they make better choices that result in more harmonious relationships and living more joyfully based on your teachings?
Yes, thank you. That to live joyfully, joy is one of the 4 emotions, and joy is the emotion of connection. So to be more joyful, you have to be connected first to yourself. And I think this is in emotional intelligence, there's 4 stages: self-awareness, self-management or self-regulation, social or other awareness, and then social management or regulation or interaction with other people. It starts with self-awareness. So what I would say to people is just begin by, you can set a timer for 5 minutes and just sit with yourself and notice, what am I feeling? Be present with what's going on. In the book, I offer lots of exercises. It's really kind of a workbook. So there's information, but then there are different exercises, some to help you with your past, to release old feelings from the past, and others to help you be present with them and how you regulate and manage your own emotions in the present. But it starts with that self awareness. And as you are self aware, it's with compassion. You mentioned compassion earlier, with self care, to really honor yourself. This is part of your being, of who you are, and it's incredibly valuable. And so your feelings matter. I think a lot of people are taught that, oh, don't feel that. That's not right, or you shouldn't be feeling that. Whatever you're feeling, you should be feeling because it's real. And so that's the starting point is self-awareness and be willing to be uncomfortable. It's sometimes it's uncomfortable. You mentioned my name, Joy. When I was younger, I changed the spelling, and as people might notice, it's spelled Joie. It used to be Joy, but I was not comfortable with Joy. I couldn't relate to it. I felt like a phony because I was not a joyful person. And when I was doing my work of growing, I had to learn to tolerate the vibration of joy. So sitting with it, being present with whatever those feelings are, they'll go away. They'll move on. They're energy in motion. And so if you can stay present with that and say, this matters and I'm there, what is that? It will open up thoughts, recognition. Some of it's from your past. Some of it's like somebody doing something in the present that's not really acceptable. It becomes a way of being present with yourself that's really empowering for you to make choices that are in your best interest. And not only in your best interest, when you make an authentic choice that comes from a very real place, even though it might be uncomfortable for somebody else, it's ultimately in their best interest because it's the truth.
There you go. Yeah, well said. Your book talks about, speaking of joy, your book talks about things getting in the way of joy. Some people fear that feeling of joy because they worry that by being joyful, they're sort of letting their guard down or inviting misfortune. I've heard people even say that expression before.
Yeah.
When you get too joyful, you're inviting misfortune.
I
How
I
can we
had that.
overcome that?
I had that very belief when I was young.
Mm,
So I love that you say that because it's not a thing I've heard anybody else really talk about before. And in fact, that whole idea of me changing my name, the spelling of my name, fortunately, I didn't change the name itself because I feel
yeah.
like it was a teacher for me, is that I thought if I really focus on what I want, then it's going to jinx it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I had to learn how to be joyful, I literally trained myself because I would be like this because joy is expansive. It's it's omnidirectional. It's an openness and it's a sense of connection and it's exists when you're in a real state of joy. There's no judgment. And we are basically trained to be very self-critical. We're trained to be critical of others and critical of ourselves, judgmental, and that just gets in our way. And so if you take an attitude of curiosity,
Mm,
hmm, I'm curious, what would it be like if I just set the timer for 5 minutes and I feel joy? What will happen?
yeah.
And the truth is, on a spiritual level, on a metaphysical level, we really get back what we put out in a very simplistic way of saying that. So when we put, as I know that as I have gone through my journey of I think my gift has been that I was willing to feel all of my emotions, no matter how uncomfortable they were. I was willing to feel them. And the more I did that, the freer I became, the happier, the more joyful I became. So I'm a pretty good state now in this at this time of my life. I still have, my old yada yada come up, my defensiveness and my over the top anger that rises up in me. And I do distinction between clean anger and defensive anger. So there's these things that I talk about in the book, but this idea of being open and letting that energy flow through you, it becomes a more of a way of being. And so anybody who has a fear of your joy or your happiness, it's not a jinx. It's not a make you warm. You will feel vulnerable, but it doesn't mean you are vulnerable. So you have to allow that vulnerable feeling to kind of move through you. And in fact, in the end, and what I've seen with myself and with all of my clients, they become more powerful, more decisive, more able to make choices that really create more of the life that they really want rather than adapting themselves constantly to what's going on the outside.
That's pretty profound. I'm just taking that in. Yeah, wow, that's pretty profound. I mean, you need sometimes to be a little vulnerable in order
Yeah.
to move into the life you want to live, right?
Yeah. And Brene Brown talks about that. That's her thing is vulnerability, and she's shown how the power of it, of actually, allowing your vulnerability. So I'm all for it.
You know, I mentioned before I was going to talk to you more about what your book says about sadness,
Mm.
because I really, uh, that was one of those spots in the book where I had to go back and reread a couple of times because I'm like, this is really good stuff. I've got to really try to digest this. You know, can you share some of that wisdom with our audience?
Absolutely. I love this because sadness, that was my kind of default emotion, was sadness growing up. And so when I started really learning about it, I realized that we're pretty stoic. Again, here in the U.S., very heady, very inner thinking. And, someone dies, something happens, it's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Now, feel better. It's always this push to feel better. But sadness is the emotion that tells us that something has, or someone has value to us. When we have a loss, it's about loss. And so we have a tangible loss of the death of a loved one or the death of a beloved pet, end of a relationship. These things, we kind of understand as a society, oh, yeah, you're going to feel sad about that. But it's not just about anything that's lost, it's about people and things that have value to us. So it's a way that we actually honor the value of that person or thing that we've lost by feeling our grief and our sadness. And the other thing that people often miss completely is that we also have the loss of things that we never got,
Oh, wow.
the
Yeah.
loss of things we wanted, that we longed for, that we needed, that we never got. When my mother died, it was a complex relationship. I understand her. I did learn to understand why she behaved the way that she did. Um, that I didn't feel that sad. She had Alzheimer's, and so there was a kind of relief aspect to all of that. But I thought, okay, I'm moving on. When my idol, Katharine Hepburn, died, because she showed me what it would be like to be a woman other than the women that I grew up with, I would grieved for weeks because of the value that that held. The other thing I've realized now that I wanted to say about my mother's passing is that I grieved the mother that I never had that I wanted.
Well said.
When we
I
have a
yeah.
dream, when we
Mhm.
have a need of someone and then that doesn't happen, that's where we really miss the opportunity to grieve that loss.
I went through that with a friend probably 5 years ago when her mother passed away. She said to me something that really struck me at the time. She said, um, "You know, I'm, I'm mourning. I'm in this state of mourning, but I feel like part of what I'm mourning for is the relationship I never had and wanted with my mother.
Yeah,
We just never got there. I tried so hard for so many years, and and now I find myself mourning that relationship we never had. And I was really struck by that because yes, exactly what you're saying. I mean, you can mourn that thing you longed for that you didn't get to have, you know.
absolutely. And it's an important mourning to do that. So that was a brilliant thing that your friend realized. That's emotional intelligence right there.
That's true. She is a very in touch with her emotions, emotionally intelligent person. That is true about her.
I
Yeah,
had
the
a
thing
friend.
in the book, the book said, sadness is about loss of connection. And I just, all these thoughts started flooding my brain when I read that because, I've lost some friends in the last few years, and it's totally the connections I miss. I miss sitting with them over a cup of coffee and talking about what's going on in our lives. I miss projects we used to work on together because we had similar ambitions and goals. Like there's a hole in my life that the connections of that relationship used to fill that are gone,
Yes.
and I have not been able to replace them, you know.
Yes, and you won't replace that because that's unique to those people. And that's the thing about sadness. All emotions will come and go, and they'll come and go pretty quickly. Even joy and happiness will come and go pretty quickly. But sadness has its own timing. And that's why somebody can die and it's 20 years later and suddenly something comes up that's a strong memory of that person and you'll well up or you'll feel that heart feeling of missing them or that sadness. And that is actually, as you might remember in the section on sadness, is called beautiful sadness in my book because it's a beautiful thing. I mean, if we didn't have that, we would be robots.
Right.
We need all of these feelings, and sadness in particular, I find to be quite a profound and beautiful emotion.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, as much as it can hurt at times, it it also brings back some beautiful memories of those people who I loved very much, who are not with me anymore. So I'm grateful for the sadness in a way because it brings all these happy memories rushing back.
Yes, and you realize that your life is enriched.
Yeah,
Our life is enriched by the people that we care about. So that's a really good thing.
yeah, absolutely. My last question, and then we'll move on to the Feel Good Five, is having to do with the new year. This is our final episode of the 2025, calendar year. Um, and I just was thinking as we look ahead to the new year, do you have any tips for how we all can frame our emotions in a new and more beneficial way in the new year?
I believe that it would be very beneficial because of the state of the world right now. It's a lot of uncertainty and there's a lot of um, conflict
Hmm.
going on all many different levels
Yeah.
here and everywhere. It's a difficult time for humanity. I do believe that it is a transformational time, that some of this thing that has been buried is
Hmm.
coming up into the light, that it's a time to actually recognize how do I want to live? What values do I have that I want to express, that I want to live as? To really take a moment, I'm not even I like to go for walks and think and I do little recordings on my phone or journaling or go to a park or even if you can go away for a day or something. Nature is a great place to do this in, or just have a quiet time where you can sit with yourself and say, who am I? Regardless of whatever's going on around me, what world do I want to live in?
Uh,
And how do I want to feel?
yeah.
And actually set an intention, not a goal, but an intention that I'm going to commit to feeling, being more in touch with my emotions and saying yes to them. Like, oh, being curious and then practicing joy and
Uh,
practicing happiness. Do things. Give yourself a gift of, is there a funny movie you like to watch? Is there music that makes you feel good, that's uplifting? Literally make a choice to do something that's going to make you feel more open and happy. And then and this other thing of setting an intention to be more present with yourself and your emotions and honoring those and realizing that they are actually there to benefit you and to be kind when you recognize a pattern. We all have patterns of, we've developed automatic ways of responding to things. You can catch the patterns and say, is that a pattern I want to keep doing? Is that the way I want to behave? You actually have choice. The irony is you can't stop an emotion from coming, and you can make a choice that I feel kind of anxious right now. I'm going to choose to let that go. I'm going to choose something different right now. And if I have to go do something to evoke a different feeling, then I will do that. I think music is a really great way to shift your mood.
That is so true. And that is a perfect segue into the Feel Good Five
Oh,
because
okay.
music is one of my questions. I think I sent you a preview of the Feel Good Five, if I remember right. So you can.
I know I didn't get the preview, so
Oh,
we're
okay,
winging
okay.
it.
Oh well, it'll be completely impromptu then. So you might enjoy this because you'll get to think on your feet a little bit here. So okay, well here we go. This is the Feel Good Five. This is five feel good questions to leave our audience with a little extra uplift here at the end of our interview, and at the end of the year as we finish off 2025. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. What is your favorite feel good song?
Oh boy. This is harder. I wish I had the questions because there's so much music that I like. French accordion music. I don't have
Ooh,
a particular song, but it's French accordion music. I just want to get up and dance and move around. It makes me really joyful.
wonderful. What's your favorite feel good movie or TV show?
Moonstruck.
Ah, excellent.
I love Moonstruck.
Fantastic. What helps lift you up when you're feeling down?
Nature.
Ah,
Going for
nice.
a walk in nature or just even looking out the window. I have trees out my window and yeah, nature.
Wonderful. What gives your life meaning?
Being connected to the divine spirit of life, to source or the universe, to God, Goddess, all that is. There's many, many different names for it. Being a connection that there's something greater than me and that we are all connected through this divine energy and source that connects all of us and feeling that sense of connection with others.
Wonderful. And what inspires you?
I love the arts. I love music, film, dance, paintings. I love to go to museums, poetry, novels. I like creativity. Anything that others do that is creative uh, sparks that in me. It sparks something to be more joyful or to have ideas of my own. That and hanging out with my friends and having a great meal and spending an evening talking and having good food.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Joy. It has been an absolute pleasure talking emotions with you for this time. And I do hope people will pick up your book, Emotions and Owner's Manual.
Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
This brings us to the end of this episode of It Matters How We Treat One Another. Thank you to our guest, Joie Seldon. Learn more about Joy, her book, and her work at joyseldon.com. That's JoieSeldon.com. Please subscribe to keep up with all of our episodes, and you can support the show on Patreon at patreon.com/itmatterspatrons. That's patreon.com/itmatterspatrons. For less than a gingerbread latte at your favorite coffee chain each month, you too can be an It Matters patron and help make this show happen. You can also support us by shopping our Etsy store at etsy.com/shop/itmattersmerch. There are links in the description. And now you can save 10% off merchandise in our store by entering the code ITMatters10 at checkout. That's It Matters and the number 10. If you want to help feed hungry people in Gaza and around the world, then please visit WFP.org and give to the World Food Program. That's WFP.org. They are not sponsors of this show. They're simply a cause we truly believe in. WFP is working every day to prevent hunger around the world because combating hunger is so vitally important. Your quote of the week is, quote, "It's very important to understand that emotional intelligence is not the opposite of intelligence. It's not the triumph of heart over head. It's the unique intersection of both." That is from actor-producer David Caruso. And remember, treat everyone with the core 4 values of kindness, respect, empathy, and compassion, and try for love and acceptance whenever possible, because we all need love and acceptance. And is there really a greater gift than unconditional love and acceptance? Be well, and much love to you all.